In episode 67, I spoke briefly about the concept of entrepreneurship. In my presentation, I referred to these people as independent thinkers. These are not people who follow the path of least resistance or glom onto an idea or person that others have attached themselves to just to fit in. It was these people who came up with the concepts that gave us the preamble, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. However, through the ages, we have squandered and ultimately relinquished many of these freedoms under the guise of safety and or security. In this episode of Office of the Patriot, I'm going to highlight both the radical left's and the moral right's obsession with controlling people under the premise of false compassion and or moral superiority. Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left. If you are a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewership. It is appreciated. If you are a returning viewer, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future presentations. And if you are a first-time visitor to my channel, well, congratulations on finding it. It's usually hidden by the YouTube algorithm. However, I hope you find the content worth coming back for. My name is Myron Ybarra, and I'm your host. Just out of curiosity, have any of you taken the time to really look at my Office of the Patriot logo? Now, I'm asking this because it's germane to this presentation. If you haven't, let me help you out. The logo is a play on the presidential seal. However, the border, the items in the eagle's talons, and the scroll in the eagle's beak have all been changed. Right now, I'm going to concentrate on the writing on the scroll held in the eagle's beak. The phrase is libertatem per legem. It's Latin for liberty through law or freedom through law. It is the basic concept of what our founding principles are based on. Liberty first, unless life and or property of another are violated. However, we've moved to a society that readily justifies removing liberty for a false sense of security or moral righteousness. You've heard me say that progressive liberals use emotions or feelings in lieu of facts to support their positions. This is nothing new, and quite frankly, it's pretty easy to defeat once you supply the opposition with facts. However, conservatives are guilty of this type of behavior too. The difference is they use moral stances, more commonly referred to as Christian values, as a cornerstone of their insistence that they are right and other people are wrong. As it happens, much of the time conservatives are correct, and that's usually because they support their arguments with facts, but sometimes they don't. Don't get me wrong, I get it, the allure of advocating for outlawing something you abhor like alcohol or outlawing pornography. It's hard to stand against outlawing these vices if you find them morally corrupt, and especially when conservatives have facts that support their arguments that they should be illegal. As an example, I've collected a couple of excerpts from two well-known conservative talk show hosts that I watch regularly. They are Steven Crowder and Jordan Peterson. Both of them have talked extensively about the evils of pornography and alcohol, respectively. On the Louder with Crowder show, Steven Crowder made the argument that some pornography, distributed by Pornhub, I believe, shows adults that look younger than their actual age engaging in sex. He believes it was done specifically to target pedophiles as a new market for Pornhub, and that makes allowing this type of pornography a danger to society. Steven believes it should be outlawed, and he and his show are taking steps to make it happen through legislative channels. And again, I get it. Pedophiles are obviously titillated by children, and this type of pornographic material is something that they would likely purchase. Here's a clip of Steven making his case.
Hey, how about your job, Pornhub? Yeah. No, even if it's not kiddie porn, but it's meant to look like kiddie porn, exactly. The answer is no. The answer is absolutely no.
The next clip is of Jordan Peterson. He's talking about his experiences with alcohol, all of which he believes were not right for him. He stopped drinking in his late 20s and feels all the better for it. And he goes on to list all of the detrimental personal and social effects of alcohol, none of which are really far off the mark. Although he doesn't say directly, he infers that alcohol should be treated just like other drugs and made illegal.
If we had to make a bad drug legal, the worst choice was alcohol. It's definitely the case. 50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive. In fact, if you eliminated alcohol, you'd eliminate most interpersonal violence.
I think it's interesting that alcohol is legal, and yet, you do terrible things.
You probably couldn't have made any worse drug legal.
Not to worry, I'm not going to leave out crazy leftist wokeisms that they believe should be illegal, like Michigan's supermajority Democrat-led House of Representatives. They pushed House Bill 4474, which includes expanding existing law that would cause a person to be charged with a hate crime if the alleged victim feels terrorized, frightened, or threatened as a result of somebody deliberately misgendering them. This state law is likely to get overturned pretty quickly as a First Amendment violation. Sorry, but you're not going to force me or pretty much anybody else who doesn't agree with this crazy ideology to use them, they when referring to a singular person. If you want to refer to yourself as them, they, and the person or people you're talking to agree with your request to be addressed in way, then fine, no issues. To reiterate, everything presented regarding the potential outcomes of these vices is correct. But the crucial link that makes these vices crimes is missing. That missing link is a legitimate victim, because at this point there isn't any. And making something a crime without a legitimate victim is contrary to our Constitution. And here's why I believe this. In episode 1 of Office of the Patriot, I spoke at length about the concept of freedom. Freedom is a very, very difficult concept for people to understand and embrace, because it requires faith to survive. And in this day and age, faith is in very short supply. You're probably wondering, why is faith necessary for freedom to exist? Well, because faith is a space that fills the gap between what we know and the unknown. To put it another way, faith is a sum of correlating evidence, things that your five senses can detect, and belief. And I equate belief to what I call the reach. And that's the extension one has to make in order to accept and believe what they are being told, especially if the facts don't completely prove what is to be believed. For you non-religious types, you can equate faith to a hypothesis. So how does freedom and faith factor into you and I allowing others to engage in vices like pornography, alcohol, and even woke ideology if we believe these things are harmful? Well, because freedom requires you to believe that people who engage in these vices like alcohol and pornography or woke speech ideology are going to stay within the confines of the law when using or engaging them. Only those people who step outside of the confines of the law that violate the life, liberty, or property of another should have to suffer the consequences for those misbehaviors. And for the record, those consequences should be severe, but that's a conversation for another episode. So if a pink-haired progressive person, say that fast 5 times, goes to a bar and has a drink after work with some of their friends, and one of them doesn't use zim, zer preferred pronouns during the conversation, then no harm, no foul. Then to relieve zim, zer's stress from the get-together, the pink-haired person goes to the hustler store for some intimate items. They, them should be free to do just that. No one's freedoms were infringed on anywhere during this event. Now, if Zimzer is a convicted sex offender pedophile that jumps onto Pornhub, watches some movie with actors that look 15, and then runs out and engages in sex with an underage person, that pedophile should suffer the full force of the law. Using the fact that the pornography was the reason for the crime is a cop-out. And it removes some of the responsibility from the criminal because the movie made him or her do it. And I call BS on that. For what it's worth, I understand wanting to make something illegal that may have the end result of preventing someone from being a victim. You're seeing this happen in real time as a result of the mass shooting in Maine. Right now, Gavin Newsom in California is talking about the ills of the dreaded assault weapon and how he believes he can make it right by amending the Constitution. What he really means to say is he wants to eliminate the Second Amendment. But by that metric, you would have to connect the dots for every vice, right, or risky behavior to all possible ends. And if we did this, we'd have to cut out smoking because millions of people who are smokers and some who are not have died from lung cancer as a result. We would have to take away cell phones and cars and knives and firearms and even doctors because thousands of people have died on the operating table due to preventable errors from people in the healthcare industry. And so on, and so on, and so on, until government controls everything and you and I are no longer free. Freedom should always come before morality, safety, and feelings because these things change with time. And it's my hope that after watching and considering this episode, you will take a step back when these subjects and others like them come up. And you'll ask yourself, does allowing these vices really have a direct victim and or does it pose a direct threat? If not, I pray you extend a little faith to those people who choose those paths that they do so without directly harming others, even if you don't agree with their lifestyle choice. I was thinking about the perfect closing for this episode, and honestly, I couldn't come up with one. Fortunately, a perfect closing has already been done for me.
The price of freedom is high. It always has been. It's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, then so be it. I'm willing to bet I'm not.
This concludes today's presentation of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoy the content, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share my channel on your social media. It is appreciated. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.